Hello Starlights, I'm Eclipse, and if you're new here, I'm currently in the very early concept art stages for creating a comic, which will be done in traditional art tools, so pencils, paints, and everything like that. I'd like to also say that after talking to a few of my comic making friends on Discord, that I decided to create a very big buffer of my episodes, meaning there'll be much more chapters drawn fully before I release them, so there'll be a bit of a wait before that happens. Right now I'm sketching the outside of an arcade that will be my comic, and it's inspired by the Trocadero Centre, which is actually located in Piccadilly Circus in London. And apparently it had 4 floors. I didn't get to go there much, but friends of mine have told me all about the four floors of arcades, so games like Dance Dance Revolution was a really big thing back in the day, and I guess in some places it still is, but there was things like championships happening across the world, and just normal arcade games like Time Crisis was there, and originally it turned from Funland with tons of virtuality being in its early stages to Sega World, so Sonic was the main mascot, so there was loads of Sonic figurines that were humongous. And then even the escalators were very lit up as well, so you'd go through them and it'd be a bit like a Disneyland theme park ride, even if you're just going to the upstairs part of the arcades. On the occasions where I did get to go to Trocadero, there was also a basement section, so I think it was on Saturdays, or maybe it was a whole weekend, I have no idea. There was a section for dance crews, people practicing dancing, so it was mainly hip-hop, street dance, and b-boying, and various other styles as well. So it was a nice mix of, the arcades are upstairs and there's virtual reality, but also downstairs there's also dance crews, and a variety of different people from all walks of life were gathering together to have this little community in the basement area. And I think at the very top there was a section for over the face virtuality in its very early stages. For my design, I decided to call this arcade the Twilight Arcade, so everything inside will be fantasy and space themes. Right now I'm doing one of the arcade machines, and I wanted to give the stick that you direct the characters around with a wood look, and then just below is some leaves, just to make it feel like it's been there for many years. Also, there's always been scratches where you put the £1, or I guess in America it'd be quarters, you'd put the quarters in, but also there'd be massive scratch marks where people couldn't have it go through the machine. So I wasn't sure if it's a legit thing, but everyone tried it, I think. And most of the time it did work. When you scratch on the side, slot it in, and then the game will begin, kind of like other cheats I will mention later. I decided to call this handheld console the Cloud 96, of a handheld console, being the Game Boy Advance, which was around 2001 when it first came out. And this is also based off the design of the old McDonald's toys, when the toys were actually decent. Even though the screen would be incredibly tiny and the buttons wouldn't work as well as they should do, that was a good era for little handheld games as well. But yeah, on my Game Boy Advance, I would love to play Mario Kart, and my favourite was when I'd eventually end up on Rainbow Road, which was notorious for you falling off the edge and being very hard to control with the D-pad. But it was my favourite game to play in the car, bus, anywhere I could play it. Until the Nintendo DS took over my life. My gorgeous pink Nintendo DS. Which is now dusting over, but I still have all the games for it. So right now I'm drawing a double cartridge game, and I've decided to call it Blob 2, so it's just blob characters, and the reason why it's stacked together is because back in the day, on the Mega Drive specifically, there was a Sonic and Knuckles game, and if you plugged in the top bit, which was the Knuckles area, you could have 2 different characters, so that was like a revolutionary thing back in the day, if you had the Mega Drive. I'm not sure if there's probably tons of other double Mega Drive games. If you do, let me know. I'd love to know more about them. Also, if cartridge games wasn't working, the secret technique was to blow on the cartridge even though you're not supposed to, but that would always work. I don't know why, It's just a thing. My other obsession as a kid was the Pocket Pikachu pedometer, where I had to look this up as to what actually happened again. It was you had to walk for 20 steps and then you could get some kind of token, and that would give you access to gifts for Pikachu. And most of the time, I would just cheat by just shaking it a bunch of times and pretending I'm walking. I'm pretty sure other people did anyway, because the scores I would see people getting is like well over 1,000, and that should just not be a thing. And it's inspired my Ghosty Boy, which I'm currently sketching. And it's also loosely based off the Tamagotchis, where you could have a pet to look after. I didn't actually get to own a Tamagotchi until later on in life because it was too expensive because of the way it just blew up. So I had my little Pocket Pikachu, and I still think it's as cool as a Tamagotchi, really. Last but certainly not least is the computer that I've designed, which is based off the old Windows 95, very chunky computer. Everything was chunky actually, even the keyboard and also the place where you put the discs, CDs and everything. And I wanted to make it a amethyst geode, so like the crystals are still in the rock and they haven't been extracted yet kind of look. And that is because once you peer into a geode, all of the gems are just glistening, and there's just wonders deeper and deeper you go once you're looking at it. And that's kind of like the World Wide Web that was introduced. And once it's switched on, that's when there'll be just a frame of glass. So you won't see the geode, you just see a frame of glass, and all the Google and everything else will be appearing. Well, be a different name because I don't want to be copyrighted. There's very few games on the Windows 95 computers. At most it was Pinball and also Solitaire, which is a card game. And if you had floppy disks, I only knew about video games on floppy disks. I guess the rest was all computers and corporation stuff, but floppy disks, there was a Prince of Persia game that I'd play a lot. And before ChatGPT and AI, there was Clippy, and Clippy was this little paperclip, which I'll show you right now, who would help you to create documents and just very basic things. He was our AI back then. And let's not forget the dial-up sounds. So if he was on the internet and someone decides to pick up the phone or make a phone call, if you're playing a nice fun game, the dial-up sound would come in and everything would just kind of stop. There'll be a certain screen with everything connected from the computer itself to the phone icon, I believe. And the most excruciating noise will come out of the computer. Okay, that's enough torture. I'm just gonna move on. There's much more noise where that came from, by the way. All done. I'd love for you to comment any of your favourite memories from the 90s or 2000s, and any other questions that were mentioned throughout the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.